This is Line Break. I'm T.D. Walker. On this episode, I'll read a few poems by Katherine Mansfield, who was born in Wellington, New Zealand in 1888. Katherine Mansfield is most famous for her modernist short stories, which look deeply into the moments of the tumultuous early 20th century. She writes in her fiction as few had before her of family, class, and the consequences of war. Her poetry was never as widely acclaimed as her short stories, but as the author to the introduction to her posthumously published book of poems notes, perhaps her poetry is not quite poetry, just as her prose is not quite prose. Certainly, whatever they are, they belong to the same order. They have the same simple and mysterious beauty, and they are, above all, the expression of the same exquisite spirit. To my sense, they are unique. And they are unique, as Katherine Mansfield herself was. Mansfield died at age 34 of tuberculosis, leaving behind her poems and stories, as well as her influence on so many writers of note who followed her style and subjects. And now, let's look at a few of her poems. From 1911, Loneliness, by Katherine Mansfield. Now it is loneliness who comes at night, instead of sleep to sit beside my bed. Like a tired child I lie and wait her tread. I watch her softly blowing out the light. Motionless, sitting, neither left nor right, she turns and weary droops her head. She too is old, she too has fought the fight. So with a laurel she is garlanded. Through the sad dark, the slowly ebbing tide breaks on a barren shore, unsatisfied. A strange wind flows, then silence. I am fain to turn to loneliness, to take her hand, cling to her, waiting till the barren land fills with a dreadful monotone of rain. In this sonnet, we hear of the speaker's loneliness, how she feels like a child in bed. Then loneliness, an old woman, a veteran, becomes someone she is fain to reach for, someone she turns to willingly to help her get through the night. It's a grim poem in some ways, but it's one that gives us hope that loneliness too can bring us some comfort. Now let's look at another poem that offers hope in a more direct manner. Very Early Spring, by Katherine Mansfield. The fields are snowbound no longer. There are little blue lakes and flags of tenderest green. The snow has been caught up into the sky, so many white clouds, and the blue of the sky is cold. Now the sun walks in the forest. He touches the boughs and stems with his golden fingers. They shiver and wake from slumber. Over the barren branches he shakes his yellow curls. Yet is the forest full of the sound of tears? A wind dances over the fields. Shrill and clear the sound of her waking laughter. Yet the little blue lakes tremble, and the flags of tenderest green bend and quiver. In this next poem from Poems at the Villa Pauline in 1916, we hear the rhyme at the ends of the line again, but the lines are not strictly metered. They're also rather short, which makes you read them more slowly, pausing between the phrases to linger on a detail, as you might in her short stories. Villa Pauline, by Katherine Mansfield. But before he came, you were only a name. 4 little rooms in a cupboard without a bone, and I was alone. Now with your windows wide, everything from outside, of sun and flower and loveliness, comes in to hide. To play, to laugh on the stairs, to catch unawares our childish happiness, and to glide through the 4 little rooms on tiptoe, with lifted finger, pretending we shall not know, when the shutters are shut, that they still linger long, long after. Lying close in the dark, he says to me, "Hark, isn't that laughter?" And now let's end on one that works nicely with the idea of sending her poems out over shortwave radio, even just metaphorically. Voices of the Air, by Katherine Mansfield. But then there comes that moment rare when, for no cause that I can find, the little voices of the air sound above all the sea and wind. The sea and wind do then obey, and sighing double notes of double basses, content to play a droning chord for the little throats that sing and rise up into the light with lovely ease, and a kind of magical sweet surprise to hear and know themselves for these. For these little voices, the bee, the fly, the leaf that taps, the pod that breaks, the breeze on the grass tops bending by, the shrill, quick sound that the insect makes. And that's it from this Voice of the Air for this episode. This has been Line Break. For more information about Line Break and to find out more about the poets featured on each episode, visit our website, linebreakshortwave.com. Reception reports are welcome, and we'd love to hear your comments about the show. Send an email to qsl@linebreakshortwave.com. Thanks for listening.